James was born April 10th, 1998. That happened to be a Good Friday. He didn't have any health issues. He wasn't a big crier. He wasn't fussy. He was happy. But it was different when he started having the nightmares. It was about 2 weeks after his second birthday. Cooked dinner, gave him his bath, took him to bed, and that was that until about 3 in the morning, and then I just heard screaming. This was blood-curdling screaming, like someone was killing him. He was saying, "Airplane crash on fire, little man can't get out." And that's what he was repeating over and over. "Airplane crash on fire, little man can't get out."
I had to respond. So I started to ask him some questions. What happened to your plane? It got shot. Well, who shot your plane? The Japanese. Well, how do you know it was the Japanese? And I think he said that night, the big red sun. Where could that come from? How could he articulate something that specific? So I kept going. I said, "Well, where did your plane come from?" And he said, "A boat." "Did your boat have a name?" And he said, "Yes, Natoma." Here was this history of USS Natoma Bay, CVE 62. The ship supported the Battle of Iwo Jima.
It was, what can you say?
It was a complete mystery. Where could he have gotten that information? How could he say something like that? I had a hard time believing it.
The next day I talked to my mom. I had told her that, this is what's going on with James. These are some of the things that he's saying. And my mom said something that made me stop dead in my tracks. My mom said, maybe he's experiencing a past life.
My comment was bull. This is not happening in this house. I don't believe in that stuff. I said, and if that's what you're thinking, then I'm gonna prove you all wrong.
I remember one time where James was talking about his airplane. And Bruce had asked him, "Do you remember what kind of plane you flew?" And he said it was a Corsair.
The Corsair was fast. Agility was very good.
I went to the internet, started to do some research, found out that there was no Corsair that flew off in Natoma Bay. And since there was no Corsair on Natoma Bay, all these memories, to be polite, it was just baloney.
One day, James and I, we were talking. I said, "I know you have those nightmares all the time. Who's the little man? Do you remember what your name was?" And he said, "James." And I said, "Do you remember what your last name was?" And he said, "Mm-mm." When I talked to Bruce, he was just like, he'll eventually get over whatever it is.
I found a list of men that had been killed serving on World War II aircraft carriers. I went through the list and found the names of 18 men that had been killed aboard Natoma Bay. It was really startling and almost scary. There was one guy killed during the Battle of Iwo Jima, and his name is James M. Houston, Jr.
I remember Bruce on the phone reading this to me, and he said James M. Houston Jr. was the only pilot from the Natoma Bay who had been killed in the battle for Iwo Jima. I know it. It's him. As soon as Bruce found the name James Houston, I really wanted a photo of him. I wanted to know what he looked like. It took me probably 6 weeks of research before I was able to find someone in his family. Ann Barron is the older sister of James Houston. Oh gosh, when she answered the telephone, I was really kind of nervous about it. You can't say, my 2-year-old is, a reincarnated person from somebody in their family. Someone who's 80 years old is just gonna hang up on you. So I said, we were just researching the World War II aircraft carrier called Natoma. She was just the sweetest old lady. So I said, we would love to have photos. Is there any way you could send me some pictures of your brother? And she said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. Believe me, I was checking the mail. Every day I was waiting for the mailman to come. And I got the package, ripped it open, and then as I'm flipping through these pictures Ann sent me, I was like, oh my God! So I called Bruce on the phone, he's at work, I'm like, you've got to come home.
And all of a sudden, there's a picture of James M. Houston Jr. standing in front of a Corsair.
It was huge.
James M. Houston Jr., before he was assigned to Natoma Bay, was in a Navy squadron that flew Corsairs. Shortly after Andrea found James M. Houston Jr.'s sister, Ann Barron, We had the opportunity to visit with her. We felt it was important, and we felt something important would happen. For me, I had this thing in my head, well, maybe this will close the loop.
By this point, we had told Anne the truth. So she knew about James's history. I remember he was instantly very comfortable with her. He didn't have any problem just, going up, putting his arm around her.
He was gentle with her, and he called her Annie.
I asked her about that, and she did say that Jimmy always called her Annie.
He was almost thankful to be next to her.
She said that the information was really shocking and surprising, but that she believed.
Knowing my name and things that my brother did when he was a kid, it's too amazing to describe. I think it's probably a reincarnation of my brother.
I was tired of my entire life revolving around the research for James Houston. So I really felt like we had to go to Chichijima and have a memorial service above the wreckage of where James Houston's plane had crashed.
How you doing, buddy? You doing good? Thumbs up? You having a good day?
Yeah.
Good.
Chichijima is 620 miles south of Tokyo.
Just the fact that we were there was a chance. It's like any funeral. You get to say goodbye. You get to close that chapter and move on. And I wanted it to be that way for James and for our whole family.
Going back to that place was a little unsettling. We really didn't know how he was going to react to it.
Bruce had prepared this really nice memorial service, and we brought a big bouquet of flowers from Tokyo to lay on the water. And initially, James didn't seem to have any emotion. He seemed fine.
Andrea said, okay, it's time to say goodbye, to leave it behind.
And it came time to throw the flowers on the water, and I told James, I said, James Houston has always been an important part of your life, and he's always going to be an important part of who you are as a person. But it's time for you to say goodbye to him, because you have to go ahead and finish living your life as James Leininger.
Well, he started to get visibly emotionally upset, crying. We gave him the flowers. He took them, threw them on the water, and then he just came to a salute. And he said, James M. Houston, I'll never forget you. And sat back down and cried for 20 minutes.
Saying goodbye to James Houston, I felt unfathomable sadness. The first half of my life was with him.
I think he was interpreting it exactly the way I intended him to. I think he understood that James M. Houston died, but that wasn't him. He was able to make that distinction.
I can't operate normally with those memories in my mind haunting me daily. I had to let go.
James really closed the chapter and the book on the James Houston past life and moved forward with his life. Now he's a 14-year-old kid who just started high school.
Elijah was an exceptional child. Most kids come out kicking and screaming, and he came out just very calm and just kind of checking the place out.
When he was crawling, he would pull one leg behind him. And I said, Elijah, what are you doing? You're crawling like a lobster sideways. I took him immediately to the doctor to see if something was wrong with that leg. And he told the doctor, shot. And the doctor said, we didn't give you a shot. He said, no, bang, bang.
Elijah would talk about the things that had happened to him. They were kind of like little shock moments. He would have something that would happen, just normal things for toddlers his age, fall down, get a scratch, and I fell out of that airplane and my pillows didn't open fast enough, and you think, what pillows? What is he talking about? And then he'd say, the pillow's over my head. Well, That's not going to do anything to help you when you fall. Oh, wait a minute. You mean parachutes? And he was like, yes, parachutes. What got me was he talked about his ears ringing from explosions. And these are things that a 2-3-year-old kid just wouldn't know. Some of the things that Elijah would talk about, the bad things that happened to him, they were kind of painful to watch him go through explaining them.
I think the most emotional for me, the most painful moment was when he was a toddler and we had gone to a friend's house for 4th of July celebration, and they were starting the fireworks, and immediately I saw his terror. He yelled, incoming. Something really traumatic was happening. He was so small, and I knew that he was hurting inside. And it frightened me, and I wanted to take it away. But I couldn't. Holding him and comforting him wasn't gonna fix it.
When I was a young boy, I was having these reoccurring dreams. I was in trenches, as if it was World War I, and there were artillery shells coming around me. To this day, those memories I still have. I mean, we didn't even have a TV until I was 6 or 7. So to have the images in my head and the memories that I had to have come from what I believe was a past life experience. When you have the same dream over and over for many years, it's not just a nightmare, and it's not just a dream. It's some kind of memory trying to get out. It seems only fitting that my son would go through the same thing. It was easy for me to understand and know that this is the direction that we need to go. We need to find out what he's experienced, and if there's anything we need to do to help him.
I actually took Elijah to an antique store, and we found some World War II displays, different medals, different displays. He pointed to one particular knife that had a swastika on it, and he said, I took that off a German soldier. I had one just like that. After watching a particular movie, he heard the name Peter, and it triggered a memory. My name is Peter. Like Peter, not Peter, but he wanted me to call him Peter. He had memories of being a soldier and drew pictures of war. All of this was leading me as if it was a mystery to solve of maybe who Elijah was before. Elijah started talking about helping children to safety. He drew pictures, and I can remember seeing the little figure and then children with him. He always had his gun and his cross on, and he was just leading them.
I said, where did you take them? We slipped them out and took them to different countries.
He talked about being underground, hiding in caves, tree houses. I thought, what in the world? Children.
It was time to put it all together. So we started investigating where this came from.
I started looking for underground, Russian children, any kind of trigger words that he had said, and suddenly the Russian partisan popped up in my search. And as I looked into that, I realized I had found the missing link.
When we found out about the Russian troops that were dropped in to help the partisans, they were dropped in by air. They came in the same type of airplane that Elijah spoke to us about. Many of them were intercepted and shot down, and they had to get out really quick. And all this was coming together.
And I thought my baby was in the middle of that, and he has memories of that. And I think that's when the horror set in. Because I thought, my God, what had he experienced? How can he handle this now?
I'm Elijah, and I am 11 years old. My mom found this book at a college. We had looked through like 200 pages to find me. We found something kind of like me, and someone kind of like me. Yeah, everything is him. Well, me.
I found a man that had started out as a lieutenant, had been promoted to colonel due to a battle right on the border of Belarus that matched a battle that Elijah had described. He had been part of the air assault. He had been shot down, of course, when that was crushed, and how he became part of the Russian partisan movement. His name, Colonel Petrovsky. The second I heard about this man's life, I just knew it was him. But then something happened that shocked me more than anything this amazing boy had ever done or said in the past.
I found out that my unit was getting ready to be deployed to Iraq in direct harm's way. And I knew I had to break this to my family. So I decided to talk to my wife first about it. And we both decided to go in and talk to the children about it. We sat them down, and I'll never forget the looks on their faces when I told them that I was getting ready to be shipped overseas to Iraq.
Elijah told me that he needed to speak with his father man to man, and he asked me to leave the room, but I stayed in the hallway and listened. I was expecting, Daddy, don't leave. Daddy, are you coming back? Daddy, where are you going? Will I be able to talk to you? Instead, it was a veteran soldier talking to a man that was getting ready to go into war.
He said, when these bombs start falling down on you, it's okay, just get down, you'll be all right. The lower you get, the better you'll be. I never forgot that. I took that with me, the fact that my son told me something like that. And I needed it. I needed it later on. So we arrived in Camp Taji, Iraq. Very first day, you're getting a look around, you're starting to see what's going on around you, and next thing you know, out of nowhere, boom! It's a loud explosion. A shell just went off. My boots just hit the ground, and we're under attack. In that brief moment, you're like, oh my God, this is really happening. So I hit the dirt, cupped my ears, and I was sitting there thinking, this is not the way I want to die. I'm thinking, okay, as soon as this stops, I'm gonna get up and run for a bunker. And then that moment comes across that my son told me that when the shells start falling, just get to the ground, get as low as you can. There was a lot of peace that came over me because I knew this was gonna be okay. Was he sent from the past to help me get through something? You know, was this a gift to me? Who knows? I don't know. But I'm sure thankful he was there.
I've often thought to myself, if I could take this from him, would I? If I had the ability to remove these memories and everything from him, would I do it? And that answer is no, because I know that it's part of his personality and there's a reason why this has happened. What Colonel Petrovsky did deserves honor and respect. And I hope that that will lead Elijah into having the same lifestyle of honor and respect and taking care of others.
In this life, I still want to help people, but in different ways. I do not have any kind of form of wanting to be a soldier. That's in the past.
If you're a parent and you're going through this, it's so much better to try to help that child through it. This is who they are. This is part of their soul. And you need to allow them to grow and just see what they're going to become.